Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming to the Royal Television Society's Humans Anatomy of a Hit. My name's Stephen Armstrong. I'm a journalist and I'll be chairing the session. John, the show was taken in a way, it was inspired by a Swedish show called Real Humans. So how did you go about adapting it for the UK?
We watched the whole of the original series, and obviously there's so many wonderful things in there that made us want to, be part of this show. In watching it, there were obviously certain characters, certain themes, certain individual particular moments in certain episodes that we knew we wanted to keep. But apart from that, once we'd watched the whole of the first series, we kind of put that aside so that we could start work sort of on our own version.
From a kind of Channel 4 perspective, obviously, you think, oh God, will sci-fi work on Channel 4? But I think, as these guys have said, the really key thing for us was, at the heart of it, it's about, well, I think it's about, motherhood and being a family.
What do you think it's like to be a father or to be a man in that house?
Yeah, I thought that actually. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I thought also about being a father for me in this. And I think that's crucial in this because the whole thing opens with Joe finding it very difficult. He's the lower earner of the couple. Laura goes away, makes serious money, has an incredibly high-powered, very stressful job. Joe has a relatively menial job, lives at home and is trying to deal with 3 kids at the same time. Trying to be a new male and failing. And he thinks that Anita a synth, is going to solve the problems and allow him to reconnect with his wife and also to allow him to have more time with his children. And the opposite is the case. And because the opposite is the case, Joe just falls apart.
It's an amazing subject. It's a huge social concern at the moment, our relationship with technology, but obviously that's a very, very difficult thing to dramatise. How do you bring that to life? And I think it kind of taps into one of the big questions of the show, which is at what point do our own creations start making us obsolete?
Well, speaking as a newspaper journalist, of course, I have no fear that technology will have any influence on my career at all.
I think the series is at its best when it's complex and ambiguous, and it's not too binary and obvious, and it goes to the heart of the sort of grey areas, the sort of ethical dilemmas, because we've seen synths being abused in brothels, and we've seen the Smash Club already, so we've seen this very brutal outburst of emotion.
There's kind of quite a lot of quite dark conversations, weren't there, during the process of kind of, if you're allowed not to care about somebody and think they have no feelings, what would you do? What would you be capable of?
Because all the way through, metaphorically, there are analogies to slavery, to all sorts of things that it never articulates, but they're there as the subtext of the whole series.
For me, there are loads of parallels in the series about, there are people in society that we treat as less than human, and I don't know, it's interesting, even if you feel that you can get away with it or that they're in a position where they can't ever speak back, but should you behave that way towards them? I think that was what was really interesting.
It's all about grey areas for Joe. That's the thing, and this was what was so appealing to me about this, was that he's constantly confused throughout the series. He switches from between calling Anita it and she. He never quite knows where he stands with her, and that kind of inconsistency is all about where his head is at.
We were, exceptionally lucky with the cast we pulled together, and that was all based on the scripts. Every cast member that came into audition said these are the best, the most interesting scripts we've read. I mean, most actors probably say that in the auditions, don't they? But I felt it was genuine this time. We were incredibly lucky, and it's just incredible how, when you're trying to put together an ensemble cast, how it works. I think Gemma was probably one of the first people in on the first day that we started casting, and just sort of was Anita. And I remember we all just sat there after she'd done her first reading, and none of us could sort of think of a note. And I think I said to you, can you try it again but not breathe?
I remember that.
I think one thing from the co-production point of view as well is, of course, casting is one of the key areas where you can have disagreements with your co-production or your co-financing broadcaster. And it was an example of how smooth the entire process was. that I don't think we had one major casting disagreement with AMC.
It was a gift of a part, really, to get to play two different characters and really be specific about when particular characters would be coming through. I mean, you said that, you know, there are hints of Mia before Mia fully gets restored. And it was being really specific. I think I actually, on the back of each script, like had a list of scenes and really had, you know, what's going on in this scene? Is there a little bit, like, is it 10% Mia in this scene, or is it 20% Mia in this scene, but 80% Anita? It was that specific because I wanted it to be a proper arc before you got to that full restoration in episode 6. The first day when we finished filming, I got home, I thought my head was going to explode because having to try and remember all the kind of technical stuff, you know, how many steps is it to the door, as well as trying to act in the scene and play off the other actor. I found it was really, really hard. And I got really jealous of the actors playing humans, just thinking, I can't wait to play a part where I can be snotty and like sneeze and cry and like rub my face, whatever, you know, the normal tics that you have as a human that you don't even realise that you're doing. That I couldn't do any of that.
Obviously, as it's been made public, season 2 has been commissioned. And so what do we know about that we can talk about?
In terms of tone and area, we want to go deeper into relationships between humans and synths. The big one is that the conscious synths, you know, the small group that were created by David Elster, and we know from series 1, they will turn out to not be the only conscious synths.
If you had the possibility to buy a synth, would you, and why?
Yep, why not?